Hokage, the ninja who mastered Sage Jutsu to defeat the Ōtsutsuki. Please like, share, and subscribe. Episode 31, Picking Up the Leaks. In fact, if you think about it carefully, Uzumaki Kushina and Uchiha Makoto seem to be two rich women. Uchiha Makoto, needless to say, the Uchiha family is a large family that extends from the Warring States period to the Ninja Village era, and the family heritage cannot be underestimated. In addition, Uchiha Makoto is the only descendant of the great elder of the Uchiha clan, and among the younger generation of the Uchiha family, his status is second only to the son of the clan leader, Uchiha Fugaku. Therefore, the resources that Uchiha Makoto can use are actually quite considerable. The personal property accumulated by the great elder from completing tasks in his early years is enough for Makoto to live on for a lifetime, not to mention the heritage of the Uchiha clan. But if compared with Uzumaki Kushina, Uchiha Makoto can only be regarded as a little rich woman. Compared to the daughter of the great elder, Kushina's identity is obviously more valuable. She is the last princess of the Kingdom of Whirlpool and the only surviving ninja in the Whirlpool Ninja Village. Before the Kingdom of Uzumaki was destroyed, Uzumaki Ninja Village gave almost all of the ninjutsu collection and remaining property to Kushina in order not to take advantage of the enemy, and asked her to take them to the Leaf Village. Although most of them are cheap Konoha, these heritages are actually Uzumaki Kushina's in name only. If Kushina wants to use the property, Konoha has no right to stop it. Moreover, the former Hokage's wife, Konoha's current Nine Tails Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Mido, is also one of the top leaders of Konoha, the real power person. Before Uzumaki Mido passed away, Uzumaki Kushina was actually the eldest lady of Konoha. Due to this status, Kushina was bullied in the ninja school. It can only be said that Kushina is too low-key, and she does not want to trouble her grandma. Except for Naoki Asakawa, who knows her identity, other classmates only treat her as an ordinary classmate. Naoki-kun, if you want to buy ninja tools, try to buy better ones. Uchiha Makoto said slowly. If you don't have a satisfactory ninja tool, Naoki-kun can still go to the cat country, which has signed a contract with our clan, to find a suitable ninja tool. If the money is not enough, I can lend you some first, and you can pay it back gradually after you become a ninja. Of course, it's okay if you don't pay it back. Uchiha Makoto said in his heart, but he must not say such words that hurt his self-esteem. Yes, Naoki, if you want to buy a ninja tool, it's best not to buy this kind of inferior one. If you want to use it, use a better one, otherwise it will be bad if there is an accident during the battle. Uzumaki Kushina also said. Although she didn't want to use the property left by her tribe, Kushina didn't want Naoki Asakawa to die on the battlefield because of the disadvantages of the weapon. Moreover, instead of leaving all the clan's inheritance to Konoha, it is better to give Naoki Asakawa a gift. She doesn't like the unfamiliar Konoha village, but prefers Naoki Asakawa. However, although these 2 bites of soft rice are very delicious, Naoki Asakawa is not a man who eats soft rice. No, let's take a walk first. Naoki Asakawa shook his head and said. As a last resort, Asakawa Naoki does not want to use other people's money. In his previous life, he didn't have the habit of spending ahead of schedule, and he didn't have the habit after time travel either. This look made the owner of the ninja shop laugh. A boy who hadn't even graduated from ninja school actually had 2 girls vying for his favor. This kid is quite handsome. If he had been this handsome when he was young, he might have been treated like this. But the boss obviously didn't take Uchiha Makoto and Uzumaki Kushina's words seriously. 2 little girls who looked like they were only about 10 years old, how much money could they have in their pockets? But the fact is that both of them can buy this ninja shop if they want to. Really rich, Lolita. After visiting a few more ninja tool shops, Naoki Asakawa still didn't buy the flying sword made of chakra metal. Although there are indeed ninja shops with lower prices, the lowest price is more than 250,000 taels. Naoki Asakawa tried a sword made of 250,000 taels of chakra metal. Although it could also conduct magic, the transmission effect was worse than he expected. Chakra metal of this level is so expensive, I'm afraid I can only buy some steel wire and go back to practice Uchiha-style throwing technique. Wait, that's the one. Asakawa Naoki's eyes turned to a small stall at the end of the street. Compared to the ninja shop with a storefront, this stall was very simple, with all the products placed on the ground. Moreover, compared to other ninja shops that sell brand new ninjas that are in good condition, the ninjas sold at this small stall are basically damaged ninjas. Either the blade is seriously worn, the hilt is missing, or the blade is damaged. Cut off. Kids, do you want to come and take a look? These are high-end products that sell for hundreds of thousands of taels in those ninja shops, but they only cost tens of thousands of taels here. The owner of the small street stall was a middle-aged man who looked a little older and had a cunning look. When he saw Asakawa Naoki and the others, he shouted louder and continued, "The weapons I have here are all picked up from the battlefield, but they are all weapons that have seen blood. Although it doesn't look good, it's cheap. As long as you take it back and polish it, it will become a magic weapon again. Let's go over there and have a look. Naoki Asakawa walked towards the stall. Kushina and Makoto both looked at him with some worry, fearing that he would choose inferior weapons because of lack of money. Even the owner of the ninja shop closest to the stall kindly reminded, "Kid, that guy's things were not scavenged from the battlefield. They were basically eliminated from training ninja tools. Don't be fooled." Looking at Naoki Asakawa, who was still walking towards the stall, the owner of the ninja shop could only shake his head. The kid was going to be deceived, and there was nothing he could do about it. In fact, Naoki Asakawa is not that stupid. Having no father or mother in his previous life, his financial situation was even worse than now. It can be said that he has seen too many scams like this. The key is that the sword doped with chakra metal is too expensive. He really can't afford it, so he can only try his luck at the stall. "Kid, you can choose for yourself, the items here only cost up to 90,000 taels at most," the stall owner said with a cunning smile in his eyes. Since the little fat sheep came to his door on his own, he couldn't be blamed. "Let me take a look first." Naoki Asakawa selected and weighed each piece of equipment, and injected mana into it to test the weapon's ability to conduct mana. After touching almost all the weapons, Asakawa Naoki's face became more and more disappointed. Most of the weapons on this stall are just ordinary weapons. There is no chakra metal mixed at all, and they can hardly conduct chakra, and naturally, they can't conduct mana. Until he injected his magic power into a big sword and passed through a metal shell like scrap iron, Asakawa Naoki's magic power flowed unimpeded in the core. Asakawa Naoki was happy in his heart, but his face did not show it at all, and he continued to check all the weapons on the stall. Naoki Asakawa held the big sword in his hand and picked up Itachi, whose blade was almost worn off, and asked, "Boss, how much does this big sword and this sword cost?" "Kid, let me tell you, this sword is said to be the previous generation Hokage." The stall owner was about to tell a makeshift story to increase the price, but was stopped by Naoki Asakawa. 90,000 taels and 2 knives. If you don't sell them, I'll leave." Naoki Asakawa's calm words contained a bit of determination, as if he would turn around and leave as long as the boss said no. Naoki-kun. Uzumaki Kushina and Uchiha Makoto wanted to give some advice, but the stall owner, who was originally planning to price 180,000 taels, jumped in front of them and said with a smile, "Okay. Buy and leave. Your sincere offer is 90,000 taels. Bastard, he didn't take advantage of it. Basically, he got these swords at the price of scrap metal. Selling 2 of them for 90,000 taels can be said to be a high price." Asakawa Naoki silently picked up the 2 swords, paid 90,000 taels, and left directly. Before leaving the ninja tool street, he bought another roll of wire for practicing throwing techniques. When we left the commercial street and arrived at a deserted place, the sunset had not yet set on the horizon. Seeing the confusion in Kushina and Makoto's eyes, Asakawa Naoki just smiled and picked up the broken sword in one hand and the scrap metal long sword in the other. The next moment, the swords met. I thought that even the blade was almost worn off, and the sword was already useless. Unexpectedly, the workmanship of the sword was even more rubbish. It was cut directly by the sword, revealing the metal hidden in the core. This is chakra metal, and its purity is definitely not low. The well-informed Uchiha Makoto immediately recognized the piece of metal hidden inside the sword. Although it was not large in size, its purity was worth at least millions of taels or even tens of millions of taels on the market. This time, Naoki Asakawa really made a big mistake. "As expected of Naoki-kun," Makoto said with emotion. "Naoki is so awesome." Kushina didn't realize it. "Although I don't know how much this piece of chakra metal is worth, I just feel that Naoki Asakawa is awesome. Okay, let me treat you to a supper." Naoki Asakawa smiled and said, "There are still a few thousand taels left in the budget of 100,000 taels. I spent a lot of mana during the inspection just now, and I can just have a good meal." "Okay, too." The faces of the 2 girls were filled with cheerful smiles. They were not jealous because of Naoki Asakawa's pickup, but were really happy for him. Episode 32. The storm is rising. After eating supper and returning home, Asakawa Naoki did not start practicing directly. Instead, he first cut off the entire outer shell of the sword with a broken sword to reveal the chakra metal contained in it. Although it doesn't weigh much, it should be able to make 2 flying swords. Naoki Asakawa made a comparison. If a flying sword 2 centimeters wide and 12 centimeters long was made entirely of chakra metal, it would be enough to make 2 handles. In fact, there is another way, which is to mix chakra metal into ordinary metal. In that case, it will not be a problem to make dozens of flying swords. But the sword control technique does not control disposable flying swords, but recyclable flying swords. In terms of power, a flying sword doped with chakra metal is definitely not as powerful as a flying sword completely forged from chakra metal. So why did Naoki Asakawa choose to reduce his power? Is it just for convenience? However, I'm afraid Makoto will have to worry about forging the flying sword. Chakra metal worth millions of taels, Asakawa Naoki was still a little worried about asking the owner of the ninja shop to help forge it. If Uchiha Makoto comes forward and asks craftsmen of the Uchiha family to forge it, it should be much safer, at least no corners will be cut. After the two flying swords were formed, he carved formation patterns on the flying swords, and then used his mana to accumulate for a period of time before he could use the sword control technique. Let's practice first. Refining chi. Samadhi is really hot. Asakawa Naoki sat cross-legged, running the basic chi refining technique and Samadhi true fire at the same time, and his dinner and midnight snacks were quickly being digested into essence. Early the next morning, when Naoki Asakawa was at the gate of opening, he happened to meet Uchiha Makoto, who was in school. By the way, he told Makoto about his request to forge a flying sword. Faced with Asakawa Naoki's request, the latter readily agreed. With the help of craftsmen from the Uchiha clan, two flying swords whose main body is made of chakra metal and mixed with a small amount of other hard metals were forged and shaped. In the following time, Asakawa Naoki's life fell into calm again. I get up early every day to go to school with Uchiha Makoto, go home to practice after school in the afternoon, and occasionally go out to play or go shopping with Makoto and Kushina on weekends. After nearly 2 years of such a peaceful life, the time came to March of Konoha 37. March in the ninja world should have been a time of great vitality and all things flourishing. But at this time, Konoha, or the entire ninja world, was a little restless. 20 years ago, due to the tragic First Ninja War, the 5 major powers each suffered a heavy price and jointly concluded a truce treaty. After that, although wars continued in the ninja world, there was never a large-scale war like the First Ninja War in which all 5 major powers were dispatched. Most of the time, there were small wars and frictions. The ninja world also ushered in a brief period of peace. But today, 20 years after the First Ninja War, with the development of 20 years, the economic gap between the 5 major countries has gradually increased. Because of economic problems, militant factions in various countries have gradually risen to control the country and the village, pursuing the use of force to expand the country's territory. In this environment, even Konoha village, located in the hinterland of the country of fire, gradually became nervous. On the streets of Konoha, ninjas who were usually rarely seen began to become more common. Ninjas' movements were also extremely hurried, and they often had to go out to do missions within a few days of returning. A large number of ninjas were deployed to the front line, resulting in a significant reduction in the number of ninjas in Konoha village. The tasks that originally needed to be completed were ignored due to the large reduction in ninjas. Under such circumstances, the graduation season of the ninja school is coming soon. In addition to the 6th grade students who are about to graduate, there are also many lower grade students who have also applied to graduate early. Naoki Asakawa and Kushina Uzumaki are no exception. Although he had just turned 10 years old, he was supposed to be promoted to the 4th grade of ninja school in April, and he would study in ninja school for another 3 years before graduating. But Naoki Asakawa, who is familiar with the plot of Hokage, knows that the Second Ninja War is coming. If you don't graduate now, as the war continues, if you continue to stay in the ninja school, you may be forced to graduate and go to the front line. It is better to graduate early and get familiar with actual combat before the intensity of the war reaches its peak, so as not to encounter the most intense war when you first enter the battlefield. Another reason is that Asakawa Naoki has spent all his savings, and may not have enough money to work if he continues to stay at the ninja school. He needs to graduate and become a ninja to earn money, otherwise the speed of refining energy will definitely be affected. Moreover, he also has the confidence to become a ninja. After nearly 2 years of practice, the magic power in his body has increased several times. Although he has not yet broken through to the late stage of refining chi, he feels that he is very close. The opportunity for breakthrough is tonight. In the Hokage office, a melancholy-looking Sarutobi Hiruzen sat at his desk, feeling the turbulent atmosphere, and his memory couldn't help but return to that night 20 years ago. Within the borders of the Kingdom of Thunder, a team of ninjas were fleeing crazily. This ninja team is small, only 6 people in total. But each of these 6 people is a famous ninja in Konoha. Needless to say, the leader of the 6-man team has white hair, a tall build, a Konoha forehead protector with a visor on his head, and blue armor. Although he is injured, he still has an expressionless face. He is Konoha's second Hokage Senju Tobarama. The remaining 5 people are similar in age and have both ninja geniuses and civilian geniuses. They are Sarutobi Hiruzen, Shimura Danzo, Mito Katanen, Koharu, and Akamichi Takafang. The 5 of them are all members of Tobarama's class, taught by second Hokage Senju Tobarama. However, compared to the expressionless Senju Tobarama, all 5 of them had sadness and a little despair in their eyes. Their Tobarama squad originally had more than 5 people, but the youngest Uchiha Kagami stayed in the Kingdom of Thunder forever because he covered their retreat. Originally, they secretly entered the Kingdom of Thunder this time and signed a peace agreement between the Kingdom of Thunder and the Kingdom of Fire with Second Raikage, but this news was somehow leaked to the martial arts faction in Yun Ninja Village. When Second Raikage and Second Hokage were about to sign a peace agreement, the leaders of the martial arts faction in Yun Ninja Village, Jin Jiao and In Jiao, directly led a large number of martial arts ninjas into the conference hall. If Golden Horn and Silver Horn hadn't scolded Second Raikage to his face as a traitor to Cloud Ninja Village, and severely injured Second Raikage first, they would have suspected that Second Raikage conspired with Golden Horn and Silver Horn to catch the turtle in the jar. But now, even after sacrificing Uchiha Mirror and escaping from the conference room, their situation is still not optimistic. Senju Tobarama, the strongest fighting force and backbone of Tobarama's squad, was not only severely exhausted but also seriously injured when he rescued them. In fact, if Second Hokage Senju Tobarama wants to escape, it will not be difficult. After all, he is the fastest ninja in the world with the Flying Thunder God technique. Although he was injured, he was not unable to escape. The real difficulty is how to let the 5 of them escape. Judging from the current situation, if the 5 of them want to escape, I am afraid someone must stay behind to cover their retreat. Those who retreat may not be able to return to Konoha alive, but those who stay behind are almost certain to die. Episode 33, You Are the New Hokage. When they became ninjas, they were taught that the nature of a ninja is to obey orders and prioritize tasks. But the premise for them to be ninjas is that they are human beings. As long as we are human, we have the desire for life and living. Therefore, although it is not stated clearly, everyone is unwilling to die here. In this regard, Tobarama's squad took the initiative to cover their retreat, and Uchiha Kagami, who died first, was the most sacrificial ninja among them. However, if Senju Tobarama gives an order, they will not object. Because they are ninjas, ninjas must obey orders and prioritize tasks. Now, they are suffering in their hearts. On the one hand, they want to muster up the courage in their hearts to take the initiative to stay and break up for these companions who get along day and night, just like Uchiha Kagami. But on the other hand, there is a bit of luck in their hearts. If they are not selected by Lord Hokage, they can survive. Whether he sacrificed his life for his companions and Master Hokage, or whether he became the lucky one and returned to Konoha alive. Any ninja would be extremely hesitant on this issue of life and death, justice and profit. After all, if you die, you really have nothing. Just when the 5 people were hesitating, Senju Tobarama finally spoke. Monkey, Danzo, you 2 are the strongest, leave one behind. Senju Tobarama's words fell like a judge's hammer, immediately making the 5 members of Tobarama's class feel a little more relaxed. Mito Kadini and Koharu were a little lucky. Although they both belonged to the Tobarama class, they were civilian ninjas. Although he is similar in age to Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura, he is never as strong as the 2 because he has no ninja heritage. In the past, Mito Manabu and Koharu were a little aggrieved because of their inferior strength. Unexpectedly, they survived today because of their weak strength. Akamichi is the youngest of the 6 members of Tobarama's class, except Uchiha Kagami. At the time of Uchiha Kagami's death, he was the youngest among them. From the bottom of his heart, he admired the youngest Uchiha Kagami who was willing to sacrifice his life. At this moment, he was not selected, but he felt a little guilty because he was so lucky. Even the mirror can be sacrificed on its own initiative, but what on earth am I afraid of? Akamichi Kaifeng had some doubts about his Nindo skills, and decided that if he could return to Konoha alive, he would rather not become a high-ranking Konoha leader in the future, but rather retire and cultivate the next generation in his family. Compared with the 3 people who were not selected, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura, who were selected by Senju Tobarama, had more complicated feelings. Sarutobi Hiruzen felt a little relieved. Since he had been selected, he no longer had to worry about whether to sacrifice himself. Danzo Shimura fell into a more tangled situation in his heart. Although his strength was comparable to Hiruzen Sarutobi at this time, Danzo was obviously more selfish. If we were to say who among the 5 people present was the one who wanted to live the most, then it was Danzo. He is only in his 20s now, and still has a lot of youth left in him. His dream has not come true, he has not become Hokage, and he has not made his own contribution to Konoha. He still wants to live and do more things for Konoha. Danzo lowered his head, not daring to let Senju Tobarama see the hesitation and fear in his eyes. But this moment of hesitation is when Danzo is closest to his dream, the position of Hokage. Hokage-sama, let me cut off the queen for everyone. Hiruzen Sarutobi said with a smile. Hearing Hiruzen's words, the fear and hesitation in Danzo's eyes immediately disappeared, and there was a bit of happiness hidden deep in his eyes. Hiruzen, you. Danzo wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by Hiruzen Sarutobi. Danzo, everyone is counting on you. Looking at Sarutobi Hiruzen's appearance, the expressionless Senju Tobarama actually smiled a little at this moment. Monkey, when you return to Konoha, you will be the new Hokage. Lord Hokage, this. Not only Sarutobi Hiruzen, but also Mito Kadoyan and the three others were in disbelief. Of course, the one who couldn't believe it the most was Danzo Shimura. His dream was taken away by his best friend right before his eyes. Needless to say, this is a test for you. Senju Tobarama said slowly, I am old and Konoha needs a younger Hokage. And I will burn myself to remove all obstacles for your growth. But, Hokage-sama, I have no experience at all. Konoha village needs you. Sarutobi Hiruzen persuaded. You have been by my side for many years, right? And I am not absolutely right. The future of Konoha still needs you to walk out on your own. Senju Tobarama urged, okay, let's go quickly. The pursuers from Yun Ninja Village are coming soon. If we don't leave, it will be too late. Remember, where the leaves are flying, the fire is endless. The future is your time, I will turn into nutrients to cultivate stronger trees. After saying that, Senju Tobarama's figure disappeared from the spot. He was using the Flying Thunder God technique to attract his pursuers in another direction. Let's go. Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was a quasi-third Hokage, swept away the sadness in his heart and led several members of Tobarama's class to escape towards the land of fire. In the process of escaping, Hiruzen Sarutobi noticed that Danzo seemed to be dazed from time to time, and asked with concern, Danzo, are you okay? With Master Hokage's strength, he will definitely be able to return to Konoha alive. We are now a burden to Lord Hokage. Only by leaving the Kingdom of Thunder can we minimize the pressure on Lord Hokage. I know. Danzo nodded. Danzo is not a 3-year-old child, so he is not that easy to deceive. Even though the second Hokage Senju Tobarama's strength is the best in the ninja world, he is by no means a match for the Golden Horn and Silver Horn and the large number of fighting ninjas. The moment Senju Tobarama left, they understood that second Hokage had indeed narrowly escaped death this time. Having been with second Hokage for so long, it would be false to say that there is no reluctance and sadness. At this time, Danzo's heart is not like a stone. But compared to sadness, the real reason for Danzo's confusion is actually that he missed his dream. When Hiruzen Sarutobi woke up from his memories, he finally realized that nearly 20 years had passed since the death of his teacher second Hokage. The First Ninja World War has ended. With the current situation in the ninja world, will the Second Ninja World War break out? Wherever the leaves of the wood dance, the fire is endless. Teacher, what would you do if you were still Hokage? Hiruzen Sarutobi thought again of the Senju Tobarama who seemed to never be hesitant and confused. If second Hokage was still alive, Konoha would be better than it is now. Even if I am not as good as the teacher, I will do my best to protect Konoha. Episode 34, Breaking Through the Late Stage and Igniting the Fire of Essence. Naoki Asakawa, who has no idea what is happening in the ninja world, is facing a difficult situation. Today and tomorrow happened to be the weekend when there was no school. Asakawa Naoki had a big meal at noon and bought some food in the supermarket. Then he rushed home, closed the doors and windows, and prepared to retreat. It has been nearly 3 years since I traveled to this world. 3 years ago, he obtained the basic chi refining technique and officially entered the path of cultivating immortality. For various reasons, he learned Sage Jutsu such as Samadhi True Fire, sending beans into soldiers, incarnation, and sword controlling techniques. Although he has learned a lot of Sage Jutsu, he has never slacked off in practicing the basic chi refining jutsu in the past 3 years. Therefore, he broke through the middle stage of refining chi 2 years ago. He has been in the middle stage of refining chi for nearly 2 years, refining chi every day. Although his realm has not yet broken through to the late stage, the total amount of mana in his body is far higher than when he just broke through to the middle stage of refining chi 2 years ago. A few days ago, he felt that his dantian had been filled with mana and could no longer accommodate any more mana. His cultivation had reached the peak of the middle stage of refining chi. But he didn't rush to make a breakthrough. Instead, he adjusted his condition and waited until the weekend. Today is the day to break through to the late stage. After calming down, Asakawa Naoki began to run the basic chi refining technique with all his strength, compressing the mana according to the method in the basic chi refining technique, making the mana more mellow while also expanding the reserves of the dantian. At the same time, the Samadhi True Fire was operating at full strength, once again turning Asakawa Naoki's body into a furnace, burning body impurities and purifying the essence absorbed from food. Fortunately, I have the assistance of Samadhi True Fire, otherwise I wouldn't be able to practice so fast. At the beginning, Asakawa Naoki only thought that Samadhi True Fire was an attack on Sage Jutsu. But as he continued to practice, Asakawa Naoki became more and more impressed by the magic of Samadhi True Fire. Although he has not yet practiced Chi Fire and Divine Fire, the Essence Fire alone has at least increased the speed of Asakawa Naoki's refining Chi by several %. Because the Samadhi True Fire allows Asakawa Naoki to quickly digest food in the body, and it can also purify the essence, making it easier to convert the essence into mana. It can be said that Samadhi True Fire is not like attacking Sage Jutsu, but more like assisting Sage Jutsu. No wonder it is said that Son Goku used the true fire of Samadhi to cultivate an indestructible body. As the Dantian was once again filled with mellow mana, Asakawa Naoki also cleared away distracting thoughts and was immersed in the Dantian and the mana. Break it for me. Naoki Asakawa uses his mental power to control the magic power in his Dantian. If the mana compressed in the Dantian before was like a small calm pond, then the mana controlled by Naoki Asakawa's mental power was like a pond in a storm. Under the influence of the storm, the water level in the pond rose crazily, impacting the boundaries of the pond, and the area of the pond as the Dantian gradually expanded. Naoki Asakawa has experienced a breakthrough from the early stage of refining gas to the middle stage. Although the total amount of mana in the middle stage is not comparable to what it is now, his mental power is also much stronger than 2 years ago. Under the control of strong mental power, the area of the small pond was steadily expanding, but there was no risk of the bank bursting. It wasn't until the area of the pond expanded to its limit, nearly twice the size before, that Naoki Asakawa realized that continuing to expand would only cause cracks to appear in the pond and break the Dantian, and he slowly stopped. Phew, I finally broke through to the late stage. Asakawa Naoki let out a sigh of relief, with a hint of joy in his eyes. After a little perception, his Dantian can now hold several times more mana than it did in the midterm, and the total amount of mana is 30% more than before the breakthrough. Coupled with the broadened meridians due to the breakthrough, the speed of mana circulation has been accelerated a lot. As a rough estimate, Naoki Asakawa, who broke through in the late stage, can beat 2 of himself yesterday, and his strength has tripled. Now, before my mana fills my Dantian, my strength will grow rapidly. Asakawa Naoki said with a smile, according to the records of the basic Chi refining technique, what the cultivators in the Chi refining realm compare with is the reserve of mana and the speed of mana rotation. The faster the mana runs, the stronger the power of the spell, the greater the mana reserve, and the continuous, the stronger the combat capability. If Naoki Asakawa faced Setsuna Uchiha now, there would be no need to trick him by spreading the beans. Even if the opponent is Jonin of the Uchiha clan who owns the 3 Magatama Sharingan, Asakawa Naoki is confident of defeating him head-on. Swordsmanship. Asakawa Naoki's heart moved slightly. 2 handleless flying swords, slightly shorter than chopsticks and 2 fingers wide, flew out of his sleeves and slowly circled around his body. Both sides of the flying sword are engraved with complex patterns. Under the infusion of mana, the patterns seem to come alive. Go! Under the control of Asakawa Naoki's mental power, the 2 flying swords flew in the air, as nimble as fish swimming in the water. However, if the enemy underestimates the flying sword because of its size, he doesn't mind letting the enemy see the power of the flying sword to kill people from 100 meters away. Controlling the flying sword to land slightly half a meter above the ground, Asakawa Naoki jumped up and stepped on the flying sword. After breaking through the late stage, the total amount of mana far exceeds the mid-stage, and I will also be able to fly in the future. After successfully practicing sword control, Asakawa Naoki tried flying with a sword. The final result is that it is possible to fly with a sword, but it will consume a lot of money. Now that I have broken through to the late stage, my mana is finally enough to fly with my sword. There are very few flying ninjas in this world. Apart from those idiots, it seems that only Inoki's light and heavy rock technique, Daidara's earth-style secret technique, and some psychic beasts can fly. It can be said that after mastering the ability to fly with a sword, as long as Naoki Asakawa wants to escape, no one can kill him. Of course, the premise is that Naoki Asakawa has enough mana. For some reason, Naoki Asakawa thought of another sentence in his mind. My feet are off the ground and I'm crying. I wonder if second Hokage, the genius ninja who developed many forbidden arts, can fly in this world. Forget it, I'm still thinking too far. Although Naoki Asakawa, who broke through to the late stage, was confident of defeating Jonin, he was not yet confident enough to face a shadow level or even super shadow powerhouse like second Hokage. However, Asakawa Naoki's biggest advantage now is his youth. He is only 10 years old and has a long way to go in the future. Moreover, the realm of refining chi and transforming into a god is only the first of the 4 realms of cultivating immortals. Once he breaks through to refining chi and transforming into a god, he may have the confidence to face the village shadows and Jinchuriki. The energy consumption in the body is a bit high. Let's eat something to replenish the energy first. Asakawa Naoki put the 2 flying swords into his sleeves, took out the food he had prepared in advance, and started to eat. Just now, in order to expand his dantian to the maximum so that he could go further in the future, he consumed a lot of mana, which caused many injuries. Any little energy is converted into mana. After eating all the food that could feed ordinary people for several days, Asakawa Naoki finally felt that his body had enough energy. Following several crackling sounds of bone friction, Asakawa Naoki stretched. Looking at the slender figure and delicate face of himself in the mirror, Asakawa Naoki was also a little helpless. It was okay when he first traveled through time, but now when he goes to the ninja school, people always look at him strangely, which makes him very uncomfortable. The reason is also very simple: he is too tall. Because of practicing Samadhi true fire, Asakawa Naoki needs to eat a lot of food every day to quench enough energy. Although most of the essence is refined into mana by basic chi refining techniques, some of the essence is still absorbed by the body. Under the influence of this part of the essence, Asakawa Naoki grew rapidly, and now his body of only 10 years old has grown to about 1m7. Although in Asakawa Naoki's previous life, due to the country's strength and prosperity, the food people ate gradually became better, and many primary school students could grow to 1.7 meters. But this was not a peaceful ninja world. Even 26 years later, when Naruto graduated at the age of 12, he was only about 1.5 meters tall. Not to mention that it was still Konoha 37, and the living conditions were probably not as good as those of future Naruto and the others. A normal 6th-year graduate of the ninja school was probably only about 1.5 meters tall. Therefore, Naoki Asakawa now goes to ninja school. He really stands out from the crowd, and this is not a metaphor. If it weren't for the fact that his teachers and classmates had grown taller, they would have even doubted whether he was even a student. This is also one of the reasons why Asakawa Naoki applied for early graduation. He really couldn't stay in ninja school any longer. Forget it, there's no need to worry about other people's eyes. I am me, a different Hanabi. Asakawa Naoki chuckled. Growing taller vertically was at least better than growing fat horizontally. He didn't want to be like the Akamichi clan. Taking off his shirt, Asakawa Naoki looked at his body again. Although the muscles don't look exaggerated, they are very harmonious, no different from ordinary people, and even fairer than ordinary people. But if he really takes action, Asakawa Naoki will let him know why the flowers are so red. Under the influence of Samadhi true fire, his physical strength reached the level of an adult 2 years ago, and now it is far beyond that of ordinary ninjas. Don't underestimate physical strength. When ninjas are in close combat, some ninjutsu that require sealing cannot be released. At this time, as long as the opponent's swordsmanship is not much stronger than your own, you can completely break the spell with force, and the opponent will either avoid it, or the sword will destroy the person and kill him. However, I always feel that my physical strength has reached its limit. Asakawa Naoki sighed. Samadhi true fire is just a quenching essence. If you want to continue to improve your physical strength, you may need a body training method. If you have the chance in the future, learn the 8 gates Duanjia and see if you can prove the body training technique. Let's practice Samadhi true fire first. After our body reaches its limit, we should be able to ignite the essence fire soon. With the rapid digestion of food in the body, Naoki Asakawa's body once again turned into a big furnace. However, this time Asakawa Naoki felt something was different. He felt that his body was extremely hot, and the blood in his body seemed to be boiling. The fire of essence is about to be ignited. Naoki Asakawa didn't expect that today he would not only break through the late stage of refining energy, but also ignite the fire of essence. It can be said to be a double happiness. However, he did not lose his mind because of joy. Instead, he focused more and more and swept away the burning emotions. A person who travels 100 miles is half 90. The more final the moment, the more unable to relax. After a while, if someone were here, they might be able to see Naoki Asakawa's body as red as a cooked crab, with white air steaming from the top of his head, as if he was about to ascend to immortality. But in fact, Naoki Asakawa's body was even more dangerous at this moment. As the flame passed by, most of the meridians were severely burned, but they recovered quickly under the treatment of the huge essence and magic power. Tolerate. Naoki Asakawa seemed to have forgotten all the pain, and his mental power was more concentrated than ever, controlling his mana and essence to follow the flame and repair its damaged meridians. There is no mention in the practice of Samadhi true fire that igniting the essence fire will damage the meridians. If he knew it was so dangerous, he would not necessarily practice the Sage Jutsu. But it was too late to say anything now. Naoki Asakawa could only cheer up and control his mana and energy to repair his meridians. Once he passes out at this time and the essence fire damages his meridians, his future path to immortality will be ruined. Even if he is not burned to death by this flame, he will only become a useless person in the future. Enduring the pain of the Samadhi true fire burning his meridians, Asakawa Naoki almost watched the flame in his body burn his meridians 3 times before finally entering his heart. Finally, it's over. Naoki Asakawa collapsed from exhaustion, but his meridians were finally saved. This time, not only is the mana and energy consumed, but also the mental energy is consumed most seriously. I am afraid that I will have to sleep for a long time to restore my mental energy. Episode 35, Mikoto's Wish. Naoki Asakawa didn't know how long he slept. When he woke up, the injuries caused by the flames in his body had completely disappeared. Not only was the injury gone, he couldn't even feel the pain of being burned. Only the warm feeling near his heart proved that the flame that once burned him existed. Now that his injuries were all recovered, Naoki Asakawa simply tried the operation of his mana, only to find that not only did the operation of his mana not feel blocked at all, it was actually nearly 50% faster than before. Is it because of that essence fire? Naoki Asakawa gradually understood everything. I didn't expect that after experiencing the burning of the essence fire, my meridians would be intact as before. Not only that, after the essence fire burned the meridians, it then used essence and mana to repair them. Not only did the meridians expand a lot, but the toughness of the restored meridians also increased. In this way, mana can only circulate in the strengthened meridians, and it is normal for the speed to increase. Naoki Asakawa was overjoyed. The faster the speed of mana operation is like making the water flow of a high-pressure water gun faster, the power of the Sage Jutsu used will also become stronger. But I mistakenly blamed the Samadhi true fire. It was indeed created by the immortal cultivator who imitated the innate Samadhi true fire. Although I don't know how powerful it is yet, it will indeed help a lot in practice. But we can find an opportunity to go to a more open place and try the power of the essence fire. Now Asakawa Naoki has successfully ignited the fire of essence, and in addition to sword control, Sage Jutsu has finally added Samadhi true fire. But, what time is it now? Asakawa Naoki opened the window, the sunshine outside was very bright, and the morning air was quite refreshing. Already morning? Is it Sunday morning or Monday morning? Naoki Asakawa started retreating on Saturday, thinking that he would definitely be able to break through the late stage of refining chi in 2 days. But he didn't expect that not only did he break through the late stage of refining chi, but he also successfully ignited the fire of essence. However, the side effects were a bit severe and made him sleep for a while. Although Naoki Asakawa didn't know how long he slept, he should have slept for at least a day. And it's morning now, so it's not Sunday morning. In addition, although he has consumed a lot of energy, he does not feel like a starving ghost reincarnated, so he should not sleep for more than 2 days. So, it's Monday morning. Naoki Asakawa quickly packed up and went out directly. It's okay if you're late at other times, but today happens to be the graduation exam for ninja school students. Pushing the gate of opening, Asakawa Naoki saw a beautiful girl wearing black clothes, with long, smooth black hair hanging down to her waist. It was Uchiha Mikoto. Compared to 2 years ago when Naoki Asakawa first met her, after 2 years of growth, Uchiha Mikoto's body has opened up a lot. Girls go through puberty about 2 years earlier than boys, and girls grow rapidly during this stage. At this time, the 12-year-old Uchiha Mikoto's height has reached 1.5 meters, which is the tallest in the ninja school except Naoki Asakawa. In addition to his height, Uchiha Mikoto's face has also begun to lose its childishness, and has gradually become a quiet and beautiful girl of youth. It has to be said that the genes of the Uchiha family are quite good. The 12-year-old Mikoto can already see the beauty of the future, and he is also a fascination for the little brats in the ninja school. Seeing Naoki Asakawa going out, Uchiha Mikoto, who had been waiting for a while, smiled and said, "Naoki-kun, isn't it because you didn't sleep well because of today's assessment? Don't be nervous. With Naoki-kun's strength, you can definitely pass the graduation exam easily." Seeing the familiar Uchiha Mikoto, Asakawa Naoki shook his head and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'm not worried about the graduation exam, I just didn't sleep well yesterday. Sorry for keeping you waiting for me for so long." Mikoto also shook his head and said it was okay. "I just got here, but we have to go to school quickly, we're going to be late." "Yes." Asakawa Naoki nodded, bent down, and said in a half squat, "You'll probably be late if you rush over now. I'll carry you to school." For Naoki Asakawa, it's okay for him to be late, but if Mikoto is late for his own reasons, he cannot accept it. "Naoki-kun, is it really okay if you recite my words?" Mikoto said with some worry, but still lay on Asakawa Naoki's back and put his arms around his neck. Uchiha Mikoto has never doubted what Naoki Asakawa said. "Don't worry." Naoki Asakawa stood up and put his hands through Mikoto's legs to adjust the angle of his back. Although he is 1.5 meters tall, Uchiha Mikoto weighs only about 70 kilograms, so he is still a little thin. The next moment, like lightning, almost in the blink of an eye, Asakawa Naoki's figure had appeared dozens of meters away. Although the speed is not as fast as the instantaneous body technique used by burst chakra, Asakawa Naoki's current speed is normal speed. Enhanced by the Samadhi true fire, Asakawa Naoki's speed is far faster than that of ordinary ninjas even if he does not use sword control. This is the power of the physical body. The essence of the Samadhi true fire quenching chain is not simply to strengthen the power, but to strengthen all the cells of the physical body and tap the potential of the cells. As his physical strength increases, his strength and speed increase. This was the first time for Asakawa Naoki to run with all his strength. While rushing, he also paid attention to Uchiha Makoto behind him and adjusted his body angle at any time to avoid discomfort when carrying Makoto on his back. In fact, Uchiha Makoto, who was being carried behind Naoki Asakawa, not only did not feel uncomfortable, but even enjoyed the feeling. My thoughts seemed to be blown away by the noisy wind around me. There was no need to think about anything, no need to do anything, just stay well behind Naoki-kun. It would be great if the time at ninja school can last for a while. Uchiha Makoto sighed in his heart. Although he and Naoki Asakawa have known each other for nearly 2 years, the two of them go to school together almost every time. But she was still a little dissatisfied, hoping that such a simple and peaceful time with a bit of happiness could last longer. However, this is impossible. Not only is she about to graduate, Naoki Asakawa also submitted an application to graduate early. It would be nice if I could be in a group with Naoki-kun. Makoto, have you eaten? Asakawa Naoki suddenly asked. Not yet, but it's okay to skip meals occasionally. Uchiha Makoto said. From the state of Asakawa Naoki going out in a hurry, Uchiha Makoto knew that Asakawa Naoki must not have had breakfast. If she said she had eaten, Asakawa Naoki would definitely not eat alone. Instead, he was going to take himself to the ninja school and take the graduation exam hungry. Sure enough, when he heard that Makoto hadn't eaten, Asakawa Naoki changed direction and rushed towards a breakfast shop, saying, "It's not okay to skip breakfast. There are still assessments today." Episode 36, The Monster-Like Student. After having a simple breakfast, Asakawa Naoki arrived at the ninja school just before class with Uchiha Makoto on his back. After separating at the school gate, Naoki Asakawa rushed straight to Class 1, Grade 3, and sat next to Uzumaki Kushina in the back row of the classroom. In the past 2 years, the 10-year-old Uzumaki Kushina has become much taller than before. Her long bright red hair is spread behind her, and her bangs are stuck in front of her forehead with a small hair ornament given by Naoki Asakawa. Perhaps because of her height, coupled with the effect of hair accessories and hairstyle, Kushina's face looks much thinner, less baby fat, and a little more youthful than when she first transferred to another school 3 years ago. The scent of a girl. Perhaps when she first transferred to another school, Kushina's round face and red hair did look a bit like a little tomato, but now Kushina is already an unattainable beauty in the eyes of her classmates. All I can say is that as girls change, don't underestimate the potential of little girls. Naoki, why did you come so late today? You were almost late. Kushina asked. Although Naoki Asakawa usually doesn't arrive at the classroom very early, he almost never gets stuck in school, like he did today. I slept so soundly last night, I almost didn't get up today, haha. Asakawa Naoki said with a smile. I thought you were too nervous to sleep last night, so you didn't wake up today. Kushina said with some fear, if you delay today's graduation assessment, you may not be able to graduate next year. You know me, I'm not someone who can't sleep because I'm worried about an exam, Asakawa Naoki apologized. Today was an accident, and it won't happen again in the future. Okay, just prepare in advance. Kushina nodded and said, get ready for today's assessment. Shortly after Kushina finished speaking, the class bell finally rang, and the head teacher Masaki Yudo also stepped onto the podium. However, today he did not go to class directly, but looked at the students in the classroom with some emotion. Although there are a lot of farces in the class, some of the children who have been together for 3 years are already graduating and becoming ninjas. As the class teacher, he is still a little reluctant to give up. However, he could only give blessings. Starting today, other students will continue to attend classes as normal. The students I named will gather on the playground. Masaki Yudo said, and the other students in the class immediately understood something. They looked at the top students in the class with envy in their eyes. They knew that those students would most likely graduate today and would no longer have to go to ninja school and would become real ninjas. Uchiha Kanmon, Hyuga Goji, Nara Nogawa, Sarutobi Tsukeiji. The above 4 people are all members of the Great Ninja Clan. They have already learned the basics of becoming a ninja within the family. If they continue to stay in the ninja school, they will not be able to learn more knowledge. It is better to graduate early and become a ninja. But the next 3 people surprised the other students. Minato Namikaze, Naoki Asakawa, and Kushina Uzumaki. Students whose names are read, you can go to the playground to gather first. There will be signs there. Because he is so low-key, classmates in the class don't know Kushina's background. In the eyes of those classmates, these 3 people were all from civilian backgrounds. They had never received ninja education since childhood, and yet they were able to graduate early. These three people brought them not only surprise, but also a sense of dissatisfaction. Why can they graduate early, but I still have to study at ninja school for 3 years? Teacher, it's not fair. I also want to apply for early graduation. Teacher, and me. Seeing the commotion under the podium, Masaki Yuto, who was already a little emotional, suddenly became angry and angrily slapped the podium to silence the voices of all the students under the podium. What do you know? Do you think being a ninja is fun? If you don't have enough strength and want to be a ninja, if you really go to the battlefield, you will not only kill yourself, but also your teammates. The classroom fell into a deathly silence, and many students who were making noises had never seen the head teacher, Masaki Yuto, look so angry. What Masaki Yuto said just now really hits home in their hearts. Most students who want to graduate early actually just hate going to school and think becoming a ninja is fun. Okay, you go to the playground first. Masaki Yuto waved his hand, indicating that the 7 of them who graduated early should go to the playground to take the assessment first. The real monsters among these 7 people are not the 4 ninja students, but 2 of the civilian trio, Namikaze Minato and Asakawa Naoki. As the class teacher, Masaki Yuto did not just agree to several people's applications for early graduation. He tested several people when they applied for early graduation. The test result is that the 4 people from the ninja clan have reached the graduation standards for 6th-year students and can become qualified genin. In addition to meeting genin standards, Uzumaki Kushina's chakra capacity far exceeds that of a retired chunin. But compared to the 2 guys, Minato Namikaze and Naoki Asakawa, the outstanding amount of chakra in Uzumaki Kushina seems a bit mediocre. Although Minato Namikaze is only 10 years old and his chakra capacity is not much different from that of ordinary ninjas of the same age, his reaction speed is far faster than that of ordinary ninjas. In addition, he is versatile in all subjects and has superb combat intelligence. If there was a fight, Masaki Yuto, who was a chunin, might not be able to defeat Namikaze Minato. And in the end, Naoki Asakawa was someone that even Masaki Yuto couldn't see through. Obviously, when he first started school in the 1st grade, Asakawa Naoki was just a timid ordinary classmate, but because of the huge stimulation of his parents' death, he seemed to have awakened. Not only did his personality change drastically, his body grew rapidly, and his strength also began to improve by leaps and bounds. Naoki Asakawa, who had never had a sense of presence before and was very gentle to others, and Kushina beat the 4 of them, Taro Yamama, on the first day of transfer students' enrollment. After that, he not only ranked among the best in academic performance, but also defeated the strongest Uchiha clan with throwing techniques in practical classes, and his physical strength was far beyond that of his peers. Until now, although he is only 10 years old, Masaki Yuto cannot understand his current strength at all. If it were a real fight, Masaki Yuto would rather fight Namikaze Minato than Asakawa Naoki. Fighting with Namikaze Minato, Masaki Yuto may not be able to defeat Namikaze Minato. But if he fights Naoki Asakawa, his instinct tells him that he will definitely lose. What a monster student. Masaki Yuto sighed inwardly. He didn't expect that his student would surpass his teacher before he graduated. I'm afraid even among this class of 6th grade graduates, these monster students in their class will shine. Goodbye, teacher. The 7 people said goodbye to their class teacher Masaki Yuto in turn, and then left the classroom one after another. The moment they stepped out of the classroom door, all 7 of them felt that the world seemed much wider. If there are no accidents in the graduation examination, from today on, they will no longer be students of the ninja school, but real ninjas. I just don't know how many of the current 7 people will survive after experiencing the 2nd Ninja War and the 3rd Ninja War. Just like Masaki Yuto said, becoming a ninja is not fun. Sometimes, becoming a ninja requires paying the price with your life. Episode 37, 3 Assessments. When we arrived at the playground, it was already quite lively. Hundreds of ninja school students gathered here, and many teachers were maintaining order. Which grade and class are you in? A young male teacher who maintained order looked at the 7 people and asked. Teacher, we are in class 1 of the 3rd grade. Namikaze Minato said. How come there are so many students from civilian backgrounds graduating early in the 3rd grade? A trace of surprise flashed in the young male teacher's eyes, and he pointed his finger in one direction and said, That's your 3rd grade position over there. The 7 people looked in the direction they were pointing to. There were already several students there, probably 3rd-year students, who had graduated early. When they arrived at the location of the 3rd-year early graduates, many students rushed to the playground one after another. After a while, when there were no more new students on the playground, Asakawa Naoki took a closer look. The largest number of students are naturally the 6th grade graduates. After all other grades are considered to have graduated early, and only the 6th grade is really about to graduate. Even if you don't want to graduate, your teacher will ask you to take the graduation assessment. If you pass the exam, you can become a genin. If you fail the exam, you will either have to repeat the grade and wait for the next year, or go home and become an ordinary person in the future. However, among the hundreds of 6th grade students, Asakawa Naoki did not see anyone who was particularly tall, so even if he repeated the grade, he would only stay for a year or two. Among them, the sharp-eyed Naoki Asakawa also saw Uchiha Makoto, and the latter also saw him. When their eyes met, the two smiled at each other. Excluding the 6th grade students, the largest number should be the 5th grade, with more than 30 people. In addition to the ninja students, there are also many civilian students. It is also normal for some talented civilian students to choose to graduate early in the 5th grade. Compared with the 5th grade, there are only 20 early graduates in the 4th grade, but they are all ninja students, and the clothes they wear have the ninja logo. There are only 15 people in the 3rd grade, and except for Naoki Asakawa, Minato Namikaze, and Kushina Uzumaki, they are all ninja students. But even so, the 3 civilian students who appeared in the 3rd grade have surprised many teachers. After all, civilian students are not only inferior to ninja students because of their bloodline, but ninja students have received far more ninja education than civilian students since childhood. Being able to graduate early from the ninja school after only 3 years of study, Naoki Asakawa and the others were already geniuses among civilian students in the eyes of these teachers. Hello everyone, I am the acting principal of the ninja school, Nakamura Yuichi. An elderly ninja stood in front of the playground and said, "Because Mr. Hokage is busy with political affairs, I will preside over this year's graduation assessment instead of Mr. Hokage today." Eh? After Yuichi Nakamura finished speaking, the playground suddenly burst into boos. Everyone was looking forward to Master Hokage coming to preside over the graduation examination, but they were all a little disappointed when they suddenly couldn't see Hokage. Haha, kids, Nakamura Yuichi was not affected by the boos, but said cheerfully, "Before conducting the graduation assessment, I still want to say a few words. Being a ninja is no fun. In fact, ninja is a boring and dangerous profession. Most of the tasks that ninjas have to do are boring, and some tasks are extremely dangerous. Even if you pass the ninja exam, if you feel you are not suitable to be a ninja, you can go to the Hokage office to cancel your ninja qualification and do something else." However, looking at the impatience on the faces of many students in the playground, Nakamura Yuichi could only shake his head and continued, "Okay, now that most students have firmed up their ideas, let me introduce to you the content of the graduation assessment. Today's assessment mainly includes 3 items. The first item is the physical fitness assessment. Running 5 laps around the playground within 5 minutes is considered a passing test. 1 lap of the ninja school's playground is 400 meters, and 5 laps are 2,000 meters. In Naoki Asakawa's previous life, even adults couldn't do it, let alone a child around 12 years old. However, in this ninja world with Chakra, it is not impossible to run 2,000 meters in 5 minutes. With the help of Chakra, most ninja school graduates can do it. The second item is the throwing skill test. Throw the shuriken at a wooden stake 20 meters away. If you hit 7 out of 10 shurikens, you will be considered qualified. Shuriken throwing ninja school starts teaching in the 2nd grade, and the throwing distance gradually increases from 10 meters to 12 meters, 15 meters, 18 meters, and finally 20 meters. Moreover, the hit rate requirement for shuriken throwing is not high, only 70%, and most students can do it. The third and final item, the ninjutsu assessment. Nakamura Yuichi said slowly, "The requirement is to be able to successfully use the 3-body technique." When teaching the 3-body technique, the head teacher Masaki Yudo once said that the 3-body technique is a required content in the graduation examination. But even so, some 6th grade students were still a little panicked. Even the lowest level of ninjutsu, there are still people who can't learn it. In fact, many people who watch Hokage may think that the 3-body technique is very simple, but that is because the 12 strongest Konoha heroes are actually genius ninjas. Even Naruto was unable to learn the 3-body technique because of the influence of Nine-Tails Chakra. In fact, many ordinary ninjas, even without the influence of Nine-Tails Chakra, learn ninjutsu very slowly. After all, the most numerous people in this world are genin and chunin. Most ninja fights use kunai and shuriken, and Grandmaster Ninjutsu fights almost all powerful ninjas. Okay, get ready to start the assessment. After Nakamura Yuichi finished speaking, many teachers came out with lists and scoring sheets in their hands. A group of students followed me: Suzuki Kiyoshi, Sato Ichiro, Kobayashi Shunsuke, Yamada Shota. The students from the 2nd group are following me: Kato Takuya, Kuroda Jiryo, Hirakawa Hideki. There are 10 teachers in total, who divide the graduating students into 10 groups. Each group has almost 20 students. Asakawa Naoki and his 3rd grade class were all assigned to the 10th group. The assessment teacher was a cold-faced male teacher who looked very stern. However, when the cold-faced teacher saw Naoki Asakawa, who was about the same height as him, his face that seemed to be paralyzed was still a little tense. "Teacher, do you have any questions?" Asakawa Naoki looked at the assessment teacher and asked with a strange look. "No problem, you are Naoki Asakawa, right?" the assessment teacher asked. "Yes, I am Naoki Asakawa, from Class 1, Grade 3. I am 10 years old this year and preparing to graduate early." Naoki Asakawa looked at the assessment teacher in confusion. "This is 10 years old? What did you eat when you grew up?" The assessment teacher couldn't believe it, but fortunately, his paralyzed face helped him and prevented him from showing any strange expression. "Well, you grow up very fast, so prepare well for the exam." The assessment teacher nodded and said. While other students were nervously facing the exam, Kushina could not hold back her laughter and patted Naoki Asakawa. "Actually, I'm also curious about what you ate to grow so tall." Asakawa Naoki shook his head, spread his hands, and said helplessly, "Just eat more, exercise more, and sleep more every day." In fact, Asakawa Naoki also considered whether to teach Kushina and Makoto how to cultivate immortality, but after thinking about the consequences, he may only pass on the method of cultivating immortality to those close to him when his own strength can conquer the ninja world. The current self is still too weak. Episode 38, Selection. Due to insufficient equipment, the first running and second throwing assessments are only conducted one set at a time. On the other hand, the three-body technique assessment can be assessed on the spot, so except for the first and second groups who were assigned to the runway and wooden stakes, the assessment teachers of other groups chose to conduct the three-body technique assessment first. Naoki Asakawa and others, the 10th group that people belong to, is naturally no exception. "Now, let's start the three-body skills assessment," the cold-faced teacher said. "The first one, Namikaze Minato." "Teacher, I'm here." Namikaze Minato walked to the front of the crowd and began to form seals. In a puff of smoke, another Namikaze Minato slowly appeared, and both Namikaze Minato greeted the cold-faced teacher at the same time. "Hello, teacher." "Hello." The cold-faced teacher's expression remained unchanged, but a bit of surprise flashed in his eyes. Even he didn't find out which one was the real body and which one was the clone at the first time. He is indeed a genius civilian ninja. His third-year clone technique is so strong. "Next, let's use the transformation and substitution techniques," the cold-faced teacher said. "Good teacher." Namikaze Minato disbanded Shadow Clone and began to perform transformation and substitution techniques. Although it is not as amazing as the clone technique, Namikaze Minato's transformation and substitute techniques are also very perfect, and the assessment teacher can't help but sigh. 100 points. The cold-faced teacher wrote down Namikaze Minato's three-body technique scores on the score sheet. Next, Uzumaki Kushina. "Teacher, I'm here." Kushina walked to the front of the crowd and began to release the three-body technique in the order of Namikaze Minato. Although it was similar, it still couldn't be compared with Namikaze Minato. The basics are pretty good, about 95 points. The cold-faced teacher wrote down Kushina Uzumaki's three-knee technique score on the score sheet. Next, Naoki Asakawa. "Teacher, I'm here." Naoki Asakawa imitated Minato Namikaze's seal. After a burst of smoke dissipated, Toon Naoki Asakawa appeared in front of everyone. "It's the same clone technique again." A look of surprise flashed in the cold-faced teacher's eyes. Not only did Naoki Asakawa's body grow rapidly, but his clone skills were as good as those of Namikaze Minato. "Teacher, have I passed the clone technique?" The cold-faced teacher was shocked. He seemed to have heard the voices of two Asakawa Naoki just now. Is it a special pronunciation technique? Or? The cold-faced teacher did not speak, but looked at the two Asakawa Naoki. When Namikaze Minato used the clone technique just now, although he couldn't identify the clone immediately, he could detect it quickly. Because the clone technique taught in the ninja school uses chakra to simulate a virtual clone, and it is a sunny day now. Under the sunlight, the clone created by the ninja school's clone technique will not cast a shadow. The cold-faced teacher looked directly behind the two Asakawa Naoki, and there were shadows on both of them. So, the students of ninja school can actually use the physical clone technique. This is a physical clone technique that most Chunin don't know. The cold-faced teacher felt that his life for more than 10 years had been in vain. Even a child who has not yet graduated from the ninja school can master the physical clone jutsu, but he, a Chunin who was promoted many years ago, does not know the physical clone jutsu. Looking at the cold-faced teacher whose mouth was twitching, Asakawa Naoki felt that there might be a chance to save the teacher's facial paralysis. "Your clone technique has passed. Now use transformation and substitution techniques," the cold-faced teacher said with some resentment. "Good teacher." Naoki Asakawa responded, and then controlled the Sendu clone to form a seal. After the smoke dissipated, the two Asakawa Naoki on the field became one, but the assessment teachers became two. At this moment, the cold-faced teacher in charge of the assessment widened his eyes and looked at himself opposite him as if he were looking in a mirror. At this time, the immortal soldier's clone standing opposite the cold-faced teacher asked, "Teacher, are my transformation skills qualified?" Fortunately, the voice is different. Teacher Lingmian felt a lot more relaxed in his heart, and his face that was originally paralyzed actually became a little more relaxed. If after the transformation, Naoki Asakawa's voice is exactly the same as his own, then he will really be shocked to death. In fact, Asakawa Naoki could imitate the cold-faced teacher's voice by changing Senbing's vocal cords, but he was worried that the teacher would be scared, so he decided not to do it in the end. He was also a little uneasy at this time, worried that the immortal soldier's clone would find a flaw. After all, what he performed was not the three-body technique at all, but relied entirely on the immortal weapon clone. Your transformation skill is qualified. The cold-faced teacher said, "Now, use the substitute technique." Good teacher. Asakawa Naoki began to use the Senwei clone to imitate Namikaze Minato's stand-in technique. On the rooftop of a teaching building closest to the playground, dozens of ninjas were observing the performances of these ninja school students. The quality of students in this class is not very good. A ninja wearing a green vest who was observing complained. There hasn't been a war for a long time. The quality of students who don't have to worry about life and death is definitely not good. Another ninja wearing white uniform said, "When we graduated, it was during the first ninja war. At that time, the war was very stressful. We didn't study hard and went to the battlefield to have fun. These brats these days know how to play in the ninja school. How can they be strong?" If it hadn't been for the fact that the graduation standards had dropped a bit because of the approaching war, many of them would not have been able to graduate. You can't say that, but I found a few good ideas. Another ninja wearing sunglasses said. It's not like you don't know your own strength. What kind of good seedlings do you want to pick? You can only choose good ones from the last remaining crooked melons and cracked jujubes. The ninja in white uniform said. Oh, I hope you can leave out some good students for me. I don't want to bring up students who are weak and disobedient. The green vest ninja who spoke first sighed. After saying that, several people looked at the three figures at the front of the rooftop. The training of ninjas in this era is not as gentle as that of Naruto's time. The teacher will not put a weak student like Naruto into the team of a talented student like Sasuke. In this era, although one Jonin or Chunin still leads three newly graduated Genin students, the students they want to lead are selected by themselves. The strongest ninjas are the first to select the good seedlings, while the weakest ninjas can only choose students from those at the end of the crane. And this time, among their group of ninja instructors, the strongest ones were naturally the three standing at the front of the rooftop. 3 disciples taught by Hiruzen Sarutobi, a disciple of the second Hokage, Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya. At this moment, although they are only in their 20s, the 3 of them have already made some famous names in the ninja world, and they are also the strongest among the ninjas who are preparing to select students. Tsunade, who was only in her 20s at this time, wearing a black combat uniform, with long golden hair hanging down to her waist, looked heroic, asked, "Hey, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, have you chosen your students?" Episode 39, The Choice of 3 People. Haha, I found an interesting little guy. Jiraiya, who had white hair and red eyeshadow at the corners of his eyes, laughed. Jiraiya cast his eyes on a young man with blonde hair in the 10th assessment team, recalling the experience in Mount Mayaboku. The great Toad Sage once said that his disciples would become the sons of prophecy that would change the world. The child of prophecy has a special pair of eyes. At the moment, Jiraiya looked at Namikaze Minato's blue eyes, coupled with his excellent examination results, and felt a special affection for him in his heart. Is he the son of prophecy? I also found a very interesting student. I wonder if he will be willing to follow me then. Orochimaru, who had pale skin, said with a hint of interest in his eyes. If anyone follows Orochimaru's gaze, he will find that his gaze is the same as Jiraiya's, directed at the 10th assessment team. However, unlike Minato Namikaze, who is the blonde-haired and blue-eyed Jiraiya, Orochimaru is more concerned about Naoki Asakawa, who is black-haired and black-eyed. Orochimaru, if you personally invite me, no student in the ninja school will refuse. Jiraiya said without belief. I hope so. Orochimaru smiled. Tsunade, have you found any interesting students? Jiraiya asked. No, do I have to accept 3 disciples? Tsunade said somewhat boringly, can I only accept the rope tree as a disciple? If the teacher and second Hokage hadn't asked them to accept a disciple, she wouldn't have wanted to accept one. Speaking of which, among the 3 of Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru, Orochimaru has the strongest and purest willingness to accept disciples. Jiraiya's intention to accept a disciple was to find the son of the prophecy mentioned by the great Toad Sage, while Tsunade didn't even want to accept a disciple. She just wanted to see her younger brother Naoki's graduation exam. However, Orochimaru, who had not yet gone dark at this time, really wanted to take on a disciple. Tsunade, second Hokage-sama, can stipulate that the ninjas leading the team cannot accept their own relatives as disciples. Jiraiya reminded kindly. Jiraiya was right, second Hokage had rules for ninjas to accept apprentices, and they were not allowed to accept their own relatives as apprentices. In fact, the reason is easy to figure out. If ninjas give priority to recruiting relatives and descendants as disciples, then ninjas from the ninja clan must have an advantage. Even if geniuses appear among civilian ninjas, no ninjas from the ninja clan are willing to accept them as disciples. Eventually, the ninja clan will become stronger and stronger, and it will become increasingly difficult for civilian ninjas to grow. Moreover, Konoha will become full of factions, making development extremely difficult. The second Hokage formulated this rule in the hope of breaking the barrier between the ninja clan and the common people and allowing them to perfectly integrate into Konoha. Why don't you let Natsuki become my disciple? Jiraiya promised very sincerely, I promise to teach Rope Tree well. Of course Jiraiya didn't lie, he would teach Nashi well, but he was also a little careful. If he could make Naoki his disciple, as long as he could have a good relationship with Naoki, his future brother-in-law, it would be much easier for him to gain Tsunade's favor. Moreover, Naoki is Tsunade's younger brother and cannot enter Tsunade's team, but there is no problem in entering his team. After all, I will be my brother-in-law in the future, but I am not my brother-in-law now. It just so happens that he has only confirmed one candidate, Namikaze Minato, and there are still 2 places that have not yet been determined. Jiraiya feels like he is a genius. While Jiraiya was immersed in his beautiful fantasy, Tsunade was also thinking about this possibility. If Jiraiya is allowed to become the teacher of the Rope Tree, the future Rope Tree will not become as lustful as Jiraiya, right? Tsunade imagined a scene. One day, she was about to go to a hot spring hotel to soak in a hot spring. However, before she entered, she found someone peeping at the female guests taking a bath in the hot spring. After they found each other out, they discovered that the 2 peepers, one big and one small, turned out to be Jiraiya and her brother Naoki. When she thought of her cute brother Naoki turning into a lewd peeping Tom, Tsunade quickly shook off this terrible thought. No, I will never give the Rope Tree to you. Tsunade shook her head firmly. Why, Tsunade, you have to believe that I am strong enough to protect the Rope Tree. Jiraiya explained. I believe in your strength, but I don't believe in your character. Tsunade said. However, Jiraiya's method gave Tsunade a wake-up call. Although neither she nor Jiraiya could become the teacher of the Rope Tree, Orochimaru could. Compared to the lustful Jiraiya, Orochimaru, who has not yet turned black at this time, can be said to be a model ninja, otherwise he would not be a candidate to compete with Namikaze Minato for the Hokage. Orochimaru, do you still have a place as a disciple? Can you please accept the Rope Tree as a disciple? Tsunade looked at Orochimaru and said. No problem, I've only found a suitable disciple for the time being. Orochimaru nodded. He was also familiar with the boy from the Rope Tree, so it would be okay to help him with him. Thank you so much. Tsunade thanked her. It's just a small matter. You should take the opportunity to find a suitable disciple. This is the task that the teacher gave us before leaving. Orochimaru said. I know. Tsunade sighed. While selecting students, Tsunade suddenly saw a flash of red hair. You can't choose Shinshu as your disciple. Maybe you can choose Kushina. There should be quite a difference in blood between her and mine, right? From this, Tsunade decided on the candidate for her first disciple. As for the second disciple, Tsunade finally agreed to Sarutobi Hiruzen's request. On the playground, although Asakawa Naoki felt a faint peek, he didn't take it seriously. Because he is much taller than the others, there will be a lot of peeping looks every time he enters the ninja school, as long as there is no strong malice in the eyes. Over the past 3 years, he has slowly adapted to this kind of gaze. Okay, it's our class's turn to conduct the first physical fitness test. Teacher Lingmian led the 10th assessment group to the playground, looked at all the members of the group and said, run well and don't think about cheating. I will record the laps of all students. I understand, teacher, all the students replied. Then, the physical fitness test begins. The cold-faced teacher waved the flag in his hand, and 20 students rushed out at the same time. Although they are all juniors, those who graduated early are basically members of the ninja clan. Their physical fitness is not inferior to that of many 6th graders, and their overall running speed is faster than many groups. However, the people taking the lead were somewhat beyond the expectations of many teachers. They turned out to be 3 civilian students. Yes, it was Naoki Asakawa, Kushina Uzumaki, and Minato Namikaze who were leading the way at this time. The ninja clan members who graduated early were left behind by the 3 of them and could not catch up until the last lap. Many ninjas standing on the rooftop of the teaching building looked at the 3 of them expectantly. Who wouldn't want to lead a talented civilian ninja? However, when they saw the three Jiraiya's at the front all setting their sights on the 10th group, the ninjas who were eyeing Naoki Asakawa and the others could only give up in frustration. Episode 40, Rope Tree. Okay, the assessment is over. In front of the wooden stakes in the training ground, all 3 assessments of the 10th assessment team were finally completed, but the assessment teacher's hands were shaking a little. All 20 members of the 10th assessment team passed the graduation examination, which means that these students became genin after only 3 years of studying at the ninja school. You know, even among the current graduates who have studied at the ninja school for 6 years, there are still many who cannot pass the graduation examination and become ninjas. However, what surprised the assessment teacher the most was the top 3 in the 10th group assessment. If he could understand that the other graduates who graduated early were all ninja students who had received ninja education since childhood, then the top 3 were somewhat incomprehensible to him. Although he was born as a commoner, he was able to win among a group of ninja students. Even Naoki Asakawa and Minato Namikaze received full marks in all 3 categories, while Kushina Uzumaki only received 5 points deducted from the 3-body jutsu assessment, leaving 95 points in the remaining 2 items. You have all passed the assessment. Now you can go to the playground and wait for your instructor. The cold-faced assessment teacher's voice softened a lot, and his originally cold and paralyzed face actually showed signs of melting. Not only was he shocked, but more importantly, he felt that the future Hokage was likely to appear in the group he was assessing. It is normal for him to treat a genius ninja with a respectful tone. Arriving at the center of the playground, most of the assessment groups had completed their assessments and were waiting for instructions from the teacher. However, the total number of people at this time was smaller than at the beginning, and some of them were obviously eliminated. Although because the war is approaching, a large number of low-level tasks need to be completed by ninjas, the ninja school has also relaxed some graduation requirements. But obviously, even so, some students still failed to meet the graduation requirements and eventually left the playground in despair. As for whether to repeat the grade and wait for next year's graduation exam, or to quit the ninja school and go home to find another way to make a living, it depends on the individual's choice. Let's rest for a while, Uzumaki Kushina said. After arriving at the playground, Naoki Asakawa, Kushina Uzumaki, and Minato Namikaze sat on the lawn and rested for a while. As for the ninjas in their class, they basically stay with the ninjas of the same race in other classes, the students of the Uchiha clan stay together, and the students of the Hyuga clan stay together. However, there are exceptions to this situation. After discovering a bright red hair, a black-haired girl in black quickly found Asakawa Naoki and walked over directly. Naoki-kun, Kushina, and this Namikaze-san, can I come over and sit for a while? Uchiha Mikoto smiled. Come on. Naoki Asakawa nodded and said. Of course, Mikoto, come and sit. Uzumaki Kushina smiled. Although they can only hang out together during holidays, after 2 years of getting along, Kushina and Mikoto have a pretty good relationship. For Kushina, who doesn't have many friends, Mikoto is also a rare friend. Of course. Namikaze Minato moved his body and smiled. Uchiha Mikoto sat next to Asakawa Naoki, but for some reason Asakawa Naoki felt that she was a little unhappy. What's wrong? You feel a little melancholy? Asakawa Naoki asked. Because it's graduation, Naoki-kun, don't you feel it? Uchiha Mikoto asked. A little bit. Naoki Asakawa nodded. This feeling of melancholy was the strongest after the college entrance examination in his previous life. Because he had experienced it several times in his previous life, he didn't feel too melancholy when he graduated from the ninja school. Don't worry, it's just a graduation from ninja school, it's not like I won't see you again. Naoki Asakawa comforted. Yes, Mikoto, maybe we will be assigned to the same class later. Uzumaki Kushina also comforted. But Uchiha Mikoto saw the reluctance hidden deep in Kushina's eyes. She didn't want to separate from Naoki Asakawa. But the possibility of being assigned to the same ninja class is slim. Being assigned to the same class is just a consolation. Well, even if we are not in the same class, we can get together often in the future. Asakawa Naoki said with a smile. How can there be so much eternity in life? In his previous life, Asakawa Naoki went from elementary school to junior high school, then to high school, and finally to university. Every time he went to college, he would witness the departure of his old classmates. In the last university, none of his classmates were around. But even so, there are still classmates who keep in touch and occasionally go out to have a meal together. Compared with the Celestial Empire in the previous life, the ninja world is much smaller. As long as they don't die accidentally, everyone will still live in Konoha village after all. If he becomes a Hokage, he could even have Mikoto be his secretary, which seems good. Yes. Mikoto nodded. None of them spoke anymore, but enjoyed the tranquility before parting. After a while, the tranquility was finally broken. A teacher holding a list stood in the middle of the playground and shouted, Minato Namikaze, Classroom 11, Office Building. Naoki Asakawa, Classroom 33, Office Building. Uzumaki Kushina, Office Building Classroom 25. Uchiha Mikoto, Classroom 25, Office Building. Following the announcement by the assessment teacher, the students whose names were read went to the corresponding offices, one after another. Mikoto and Kushina also showed a bit of disappointment in their eyes. Although I know that the possibility of being assigned to the same class is very small, I still have hope before the results come out. However, Mikoto and Kushina were assigned to the same class and could still take care of each other. Okay, let's go. Asakawa Naoki said. A group of 4 people came to the office building and separated, then each looked for his own office. Walking into classroom 33, Asakawa Naoki thought that his speed was fast enough, but he didn't expect that there was already a student inside. He was a boy about 1.4 meters tall, with short brown hair, who looked a bit like Naruto, and had a smile on his face. If nothing else happened, he would be Naoki Asakawa's teammate in the future. Hello, I am Naoki Asakawa. Are you also a graduating freshman in classroom 33? Naoki Asakawa said. Yes, I am Naoki. I am 12 years old this year and a 6th grade graduate. Naoki said, looking at Naoki Asakawa with eyes full of curiosity and asking, Asakawa-kun, are you a 6th grade foreign student from the last class? How old are you this year? You are so tall, taller than my sister. A series of questions popped out of Shinshu's mouth, and it was obvious that Shinshu was a familiar and outgoing child. His name was Naoki, and he had a similar appearance and personality to Naruto. In addition, he had an older sister. Asakawa Naoki was basically certain that the boy in front of him was Tsunade's younger brother, Naoki, or Senju Naoki. Unexpectedly, instead of becoming teammates with Kushina and Mikoto, he became teammates with Naoki. I'm not a repeater, Naoki Asakawa shook his head and said truthfully, I graduated early from the 3rd grade and I'm 10 years old this year. Ah? You are 10 years old? Naoshu said with a look of disbelief. He is obviously 2 years younger than me, but he is so much taller than me. Asakawa-kun, may I ask, what did you eat when you were growing up? Naoki asked expectantly.